All right, there is one type of golf product out there that has led to me enjoying golf more than any other product. And it's not getting a new driver, it's not getting new balls or new shoes or a new bag. It's a lot smaller than those things. It is a golf sensor. Specifically, it is a golf sensor that tracks every single shot I hit throughout my rounds. And it will give me every single statistic I could ever want to know about my golf game, allowing me to figure out what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what I need to work on. And it also will allow me to relive all of my rounds after the fact, which I have found to be a lot of fun as someone who travels a lot. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the 3 best golf swing sensor platforms that are out there on the market right now. All 3 of these are fantastic, but they're all pretty different from one another and each have their own pros and cons. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the Arccos Caddie system, Garmin CT10 sensors, and the ShotScope V3 system. So if you're finally ready to get all of the data about your golf game, you're definitely going to want to watch this video because all 3 of these, while excellent, will each cater to a different person. Ready to go? Let's get into it. All right, before we go into the pros and cons of all the different systems, let's just do a brief overview of what one of these systems will do for you. So when you buy it, no matter whether it's Arccos, Garmin, ShotScope, you're gonna get a set of sensors. They're gonna look kind of like this. And you're going to screw each of these into all of your clubs. You are then going to pair it. So the system is going to know exactly which sensor goes to which club. Let's say you step to the first tee. You hit a driver. It's then going to recognize not only that you hit your driver, but it's going to know exactly where on the course you hit it. It is all GPS mapped with all of these systems. You're then going to walk down the fairway, probably 300 yards. You probably hit it 300 yards. So you're going to walk down the fairway 300 yards, you're going to pull out a pitching wedge, and then you're going to hit your pitching wedge. So this system now knows that your driver went 300 yards and that your pitching wedge was the next shot that you hit. It's then going to go up to the green and where your first putt is. It's then going to know exactly how far your pitching wedge is. So it's able to figure out exactly what club you hit, where on the course you hit it, and how far you hit it through that process. So Arccos, for instance, will use a combination of accelerometer and sound to figure out when you hit the shot. If you take multiple practice swings or have some mulligans, it will default to the last shot that you hit. All of these systems do this really, really well, and it's pretty amazing when you get to the end of your round and you can see every single shot you hit, along with the distances, along with your statistics plotted around the golf course. All right, and one quick thing I wanted to mention here is I know it can sometimes be tough to find comparisons with all of these products, and I'm kind of doing it all in one fell swoop in one video, but if you have a question that doesn't get answered here, feel free to drop a comment and I will do my very best to answer you. All right, so I'm going to talk about each of these individually. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons, and then at the end, we'll tie it all together to hopefully help you figure out which one is right for you. All right, so first up, let's just talk about my favorite right out of the gate, and that is Arccos Caddie. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that I've personally played over 300 rounds with Arccos. There's not a single golf product out there that I have used anywhere close to as many rounds as I have with Arccos. I just think it's that good. But there are some cons, and it's not for everybody, which we're gonna talk about in a second. But what I like about Arccos is of these 3 systems, they've come the farthest. It feels the most refined. They were the first ones to market nearly 10 years ago, so they've had a lot of time to work out the kinks and kind of figure everything out. I found all the data I get to be super accurate. I think the app is really easy to use and it also looks great. They have the best user interface, and the analytics you get from Arccos is also the most robust out of all 3 of these systems. Arccos also has the best Apple Watch user interface, and when you combine the Apple Watch with Arccos, that is my preferred GPS watch system of choice. You can also use the watch in lieu of your phone to track everything. So if you're someone who doesn't like having your phone in your pocket, you can just use your Apple Watch, but you're going to want to make sure it's one of the newer models, because if it's an older model like a Series 6 or before, you're probably going to run out of battery life. If you don't have an Apple Watch and you also don't like having your phone in your pocket, then you can use the Arccos Link, which is a little device you put on your belt loop. You keep your phone in your bag. It will track everything. When you get close to your bag and close to your phone again, it will then upload that data, so you've got it all right there. So personally, I love the way that Arccos breaks down everything by strokes gained, so I can figure out in relation to, say, a 10 handicap, was I gaining or losing strokes on my drives, on my approach, on my putt, on my short game, and I can really figure out what's working and what isn't. The Arccos app itself has a ton of information and for most people will be all you need, but I love the fact that they have more data on the desktop app. So if you log in on your computer, you can get all sorts of scatter charts of all of your shots, so you can really see visually exactly where you're missing, where you're making good shots, and it really works pretty well. The price of Arccos is also really solid. It's $199 for either the smart grips or the smart sensors. So they essentially do the same thing, but the grips have the sensors built in and you would regrip them just as you would any other club. And the sensors you screw into the butt of your clubs. So if you're someone that changes clubs a lot and you want to have the flexibility of easily screwing and unscrewing the sensors, that would be the way to go. If you pretty much use the same set of clubs all the time and you're not changing clubs very often, then I would recommend the grips. So it's $199 for either of these systems, but if you use the code BE15, you're going to get 15% off, which brings the cost down to $170. So that in itself is a really good deal, but that takes us to our first con of Arccos, which is there is a subscription fee. And so they are the only ones of these three systems that have a subscription fee. When you buy a system, you get your first year free, but after that, it's about $155 annually to be able to use the service. And I know a lot of people hate subscriptions, but for me, I have found that to be well worth it for the data I get and the user experience I have when using Arccos. Another con is if you're planning to just use it with the Apple Watch, the experience can still be a little bit variable. So I found it to be pretty solid with the Apple Watch Ultra, but again, if you're using an older model, it may not work quite as well as you'd like. And finally, a con with Arccos, which is also a con with any of these other systems, is that there's a bit of a learning curve. I've talked to a lot of people over the years that will use it for 1 or 2 rounds. They haven't properly planned for it. They basically show up on the first tee, hit go, and expect to just leave their phone in their pocket and have everything work perfectly. It's just not going to be the case. I would say 4 out of 5 rounds, I really don't have to do much. I add a putt here or there, I add a penalty shot, maybe I have to move a shot around, but it's all generally pretty easy. But occasionally you'll find that it won't recognize what hole you're on, and then you've got to move shots around. And if you don't recognize that that happened right away, you can find yourself having to do a lot of work to get your shots where they need to be. But again, that doesn't happen very often, but if that happens to you in your first round, I can understand why you're like, this doesn't work very well, I'm out. So I'd say regardless of which system you decide to go with, give yourself 5 rounds. At the end of 5 rounds, you should have a pretty good idea of whether or not it's for you, and you're also going to have a good sense of how to make it work on the course so that it's not distracting and it becomes an asset rather than a liability. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about the Garmin CT10 sensors, which are the most expensive just for the sensors alone. They retail for $299 for a full set of clubs. Plus, in order to use them, you have to have a Garmin watch. So the upfront cost of the Garmin system is going to be the most expensive. But if you're someone who uses a Garmin watch, or you want to be using a Garmin watch, this is absolutely the best choice you can make. With all of the golf GPS watches I have reviewed, the Garmin S62 is by far my favorite. It is absolutely fantastic, and when you pair it with a set of CT10 sensors, it gets even better. One thing I would keep an eye out for, though, is they sell these packages. It's like a starter kit. So this is the S62 with 3 CT10 sensors, and they recommend you put it on your driver and then your wedges for the best experience, but I've found that you just don't get enough data. It kind of gives you a hint of what these sensors can do, but it's not giving you enough to truly make it worth it. So the S62, which is one of Garmin's higher end models, just the watch alone has some built-in shot tracking capability, but you're really going to want to use the sensors if shot tracking is something that's important to you. It's been kind of crazy because Garmin's kind of been under the radar, and without everybody kind of noticing right away, they've built the best tech ecosystem in golf. You've got the Z82 rangefinder, you have the R10 launch monitor, and then you have the CT10 sensors, and they all use one app. So if you have any of those other products, you can use one app, which is going to store all of your practice data, it's going to store all of your round data, and having all of that in one place, that is super powerful, super sleek, and I kind of love it. So personally, I found in my testing that it seems like Garmin will occasionally miss more shots than either ShotScope or Arccos, and I also don't necessarily love the app experience as much as I do with those other two systems. And another kind of concern for me is the fact that it doesn't seem like Garmin markets or promotes these sensors at all. Like, you hardly really hear about it, and then you go to the website and they weren't for sale for a while, and whereas, Arccos and ShotScope, it seems like they're kind of everywhere. They're really pushing it. Like, Garmin is such a big company, it almost seems like these are a little bit of an afterthought. So I'm a little concerned at what the future of these sensors and what the future of the software related to these sensors looks like. Both ShotScope and Arccos have been making leaps and bounds with their app experience and rolling out new features and doing all sorts of stuff, and I'm just not sure we're going to see that with Garmin, which is going to give me a little bit of a pause. So all that to say, if you use a Garmin watch, the S42, the S62, the S12, then these are fantastic. These are the ones I would go with because you are already in that ecosystem and it is going to make that app so much better and give you so much more data. That being said, if you don't have a Garmin watch and you're not planning on buying one, then I would probably look to one of the other two because it's going to overall be less expensive and probably a better fit for you. Hey, real quick, is this useful? Go hit the subscribe button right now. I'll wait. 3, 2, 1. Okay, back to the video. Finally, we have what I think is the best value, and that is the ShotScope V3. The ShotScope system has a number of things that none of these other systems have, and it is by far the cheapest system to use. So first off, the biggest thing that it comes with that none of these other ones do is a watch. So it includes a GPS watch that you can wear. So it gives you a similar experience to the Apple Watch and the Arccos system, but it comes with its own watch. So if you're someone who's been wanting to buy a GPS watch and you want shot tracking, but you don't necessarily want to spend all the money with a Garmin, or you don't necessarily need all the extra features that are packed into a Garmin watch, then ShotScope is probably going to be an excellent choice for you. So to be honest, I've been really impressed with what ShotScope has been doing over the last year or so. They've really made some updates to their app, which has helped accuracy, it's helped the user experience. I still don't think it's quite on par with Arccos. I like using Arccos more. I get quite a bit more data from Arccos, but ShotScope is slowly starting to catch up and they're slowly building a better product. One of the cool things they just announced is that they are announcing a coaching platform. So whether you're a coach, whether you've got students, whether you're a PGA professional, for free, you can create your coaching platform and then you can get all of your students' data so you can have all of that when you're working in practice sessions. I think it's pretty cool that they're including that, but I think it's especially cool that they're doing that for no extra fee. Speaking of fees, like I mentioned, ShotScope is by far the cheapest of these systems. It's $199 retail for the whole system. That includes the watch and the sensors. But if you use the code BREAKING80 with 80 spelt out on their website, then you're going to save an additional 15%. For some reason, as of the time of this recording, the V3 doesn't seem to be available. It seems to be sold out, but I would go check playbetter.com or amazon.com because even at $200, this is a great deal considering it comes with the watch and there is no subscription. One thing to note, just kind of comes down to build quality. So the sensors themselves feel much cheaper than either the Garmin or the Arccos sensors. And the watch, it's definitely not a Garmin watch. You know, it's perfectly functional. It'll work great. I don't like the fact that it has a proprietary charger because I tend to lose those and forget to charge them. If it was just a USB-C, it would be much easier, but this is not. But build quality definitely seems kind of like a step below, and that's reflected in the price point. That being said, I don't think there's going to be any issues with durability or anything like that. I think it will work for a long time to come. It just doesn't quite seem on par as with the other products. So all that to say, which one should you buy? I think it's generally pretty clear. If you're on a budget and you want all of the data and you want the GPS watch app and you hate subscriptions, go get ShotScope. It's excellent. If you are already in the Garmin ecosystem or you're planning to be in the Garmin ecosystem, go get the CT10 sensors. If you want what I think is the best overall experience with the best data, the most accurate system, and you're okay with the fact that there is an annual subscription, then Arccos is definitely the one I would choose overall. So in the end, if you've been kind of on the fence about a golf tracking system, I personally can't recommend it enough. Like I said, it's going to take you a few rounds to get used to it. It's going to get in the way for a couple rounds as you're figuring things out. But once you get that data, once you're able to go back and relive every round you play, like for instance, I just went to Australia and I tracked most of my rounds using Arccos. So I can go back and I can see that I parred the 13th hole at New South Wales. And then I birdied the next hole right after that. I can see that I had a 288-yard drive. That doesn't happen very often. So those are moments that I'm excited to relive in my golf travels. And then I can go back and I can get all the data and I can figure out the things that I screwed up so that I can fix them in the future. So having that power, having that information is really just enhanced my golf experience in a great way. And I think that if you're someone who plays on a regular basis, that it's going to do the same for you. So that's my take on the best 3 game tracking solutions out there: Arccos, ShotScope, CT10. Regardless which one you choose, I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're going to love the data, and I think it's well worth it. With that, my name's Sean Ogle. I'm the founder of this thing here, Breaking80, where we do cool golf tech reviews and cool golf course reviews. If you like this video, go to breaking80.com/hi, hop on our newsletter list. We're going to get 1 email a week with all of our best content. I hope you have an excellent day. I can't wait to see you on the next one. And if you have questions, make sure you drop them below. I'll try and answer every single one. See you later.